Everybody Hates Rand is a Wheel of Time podcast that will contain spoilers for all 14 books. So if you're anti-spoiler, stop this, read all 14 books, and come back. We'll be here, waiting.
Our title is a joke and is meant to be taken as such. Everybody in this context refers to us and our cats. You are free to feel however you want about Rand. He's a fictional character. Please don't DM us.
The world is a mess, Dark One stretching out his hand. The dragon's reborn, the fire's been fanned, but everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand. Everybody hates Rand.
Anyway, this is Everybody Hates Rand, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast. I'm Emily Jushaw.
And I'm Sally Goodger.
We're a little under the weather over here at EHR headquarters. Cats and humans alike.
Tibble's just sort of wailing in the
Tibble's
background.
wailing, Ed keeps barfing.
Oh, yeah.
Just sort of, the way cats do.
Yeah, he's just going through his barf phase.
His barf face.
His barf phase.
The entire Wheel of Time was Robert Jordan's barf face. But perhaps especially these chapters, because of course we get an Alviaran point of view, and as you all know, bad guy points of view are the absolute worst in Robert Jordan land.
Yeah, the Alviaran point of view is rancid for, so many reasons, but it's also just sort of peak. Let's torture women for shits and giggles.
I was actually, I think I've just become so, desensitized to the whole tormenting of women that I was actually getting a pretty big kick out of it, because I was just like, Alviaran's just, an employee in the bureaucracy dealing with a very shitty manager.
Yeah.
And in a way, aren't we all?
Yeah, if you can remove yourself from everything that's going on. It is a deeply hilarious chapter because Alviaran returns to the White Tower after being
No idea where she's been.
She's been on Tremalking, I think.
But why?
No idea. I also don't know what she'd be doing on Tremalking for a whole month. So she's recently been on Tremalking, but before that, and what she has been doing, no idea. But she has
Probably
been gone
because Robert Jordan has no idea.
for a full month.
Yeah.
And comes back just being like, it'll be fine. Nothing will have changed in a month.
There's no way that, Aleda in the last month will have decided to take a stand against my terrible abuse of her.
Yeah, she definitely will not use this opportunity of my absence to sort of oust me from power.
Yeah, and there's no way that anything, bad will be happening in the White Tower or Tarvalon at large. And it's the rebels have teleported to outside of Tarvalon in the month you've been gone. This is so awkward and embarrassing.
Yeah, this is so embarrassing.
You're no longer the keeper.
Yeah, they've deposed you.
What? When she, first runs into someone, they're like, this is a sad time for all of us, but especially you. And Alviaran's like, what the fuck are they talking about? And I'm like, in retrospect, I also don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because that's not the way I would have phrased it.
Yeah.
This is a sad time for all of us?
Yeah.
Tarvalon being under siege?
Yeah, it's very strange, and it's a sad time for you. It's no, it's a really shitty time for you. You should be embarrassed of your behavior.
But, she shouldn't be, mourning her position.
It's just, so funny. She, confidently walks into Aleda's study, and Aleda is, absolutely fuck off.
Yeah, perish.
Yeah.
And everyone assumes that she's just been hiding in the city.
Yeah.
While the last month has happened. Because, she presumably, in other circumstances, would have been able to be like, oh yeah, I've just been traveling the way Aes Sedai do sometimes, but while she's been gone, the city has, become under siege, so, the gates have been more or less shut down.
Yeah, so it's there's nowhere else she could really
have been, except for the city.
Except Alviarin, of course, has been given the gift of traveling, which she will not tell anybody.
Yeah, because she's
Under
not supposed
Dark
to.
Friend Order. So
Which
yeah,
I don't
everyone's
know
like,
why, like, let the Lord of Chaos rule, you know?
yeah, and what is more chaotic than teleportation? But, yeah, everyone thinks she's been hiding in the city like a yellow-bellied coward. And they're all, like, disgusted by her and the way that she has been behaving while they're trying to deal with this siege.
They're like, ugh, Alviarin.
Yeah.
Least favorite Aes Sedai. We all hate each other, but we especially hate Alviarin. And Aleda's like, oh, how the turntables.
Turntables, yeah, and Alviarin's kind of whole plot to keep Aleda under thumb, except for the rampant physical abuse, has been to be like, I will tell everybody that you were in charge for what happened at Dumai's Wells, and I will tell everybody that you sent Tovine to the Black Tower, and that also went horribly wrong. And she's like, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to let these things out, and that'll be so shitty for you. And it's like, both of those things have come out in the month that she's been gone, and Aleda has just been like, without doing anything, the blame has fallen on other people because both of those things were such a mess. So it's like, totally fine.
Like, like, that was, like, already to begin with sort of, like, shitty blackmailing that Alviarin was doing. Like, Alviarin's a person with an incompetent manager, aka Masana, one of the Forsaken, who herself has an incompetent manager, aka the Dark One.
Right.
But, like, Alviarin is also highly incompetent, based sheerly on what we've seen of her activities in the White Tower for the last year or so that she's more or less been in charge. She sends a confusing letter to Randall Thor that has no results.
Yeah, Rand's like, okay, well, just
Rand's like,
file that away,
okay,
I guess.
I have literally no idea what the fuck's going on here. She's been supervising Aleda while Aleda has put in some of the worst projects of all time into place. She's been like, I'll take charge of Aleda, except she didn't.
Right.
She then promptly fucked off for a month.
Yeah.
A month!
A whole entire month. Like, imagine just up and leaving your job for a month and coming back and expecting to not be fired.
Yeah, like, it's not like you're, like, taking sick leave or something. You're literally just, like, goodbye, no call, no show for 30 full days.
Yeah.
Or however long wheelie time months are.
Yeah, who knows? But it's just like, yeah, and I know you're under, like, Dark Friend orders, like, not tell anybody where you're going, but you couldn't have been like, hey, I have Aes Sedai business to do, I'm going to be gone for a minute.
Yeah, and I am going to, like, shift the supervision of Aleda to some other person.
Yeah.
Like, Alviarin's, like, complaining about how Masana won't delegate to anyone other than her.
Right.
Like, Masana is completely uninterested in knowing who all is in the Black Aja.
Right.
She's just got Alviarin and is like, you take care of it, which is, like, so classic bad management.
Right.
Like, I will just pick on my one employee who is immediately
underneath
me in the pecking order, and how they get it done, I don't really care, but as long as it gets done.
Right.
But then Alviarin herself is apparently not delegating enough. Like, girl, you're in charge of the Black Aja now because Galena beefed it.
Yeah.
So hard.
R.I.P. Galena.
R.I.P. Galena, also getting tortured on the other side of the world. So, like, why can't you just be like, alright, I will actually use the Black Aja as the structural tool that it is, considering that there's apparently 6 billion of us. And, like, actually do something, but it's just, like, incompetent people everywhere. And it's like, yeah, that's sort of Robert Jordan's whole shtick.
Right.
Is that everyone, apparently, good or evil, is incompetent on some level.
Right.
But that's no fun to read about. I'm not afraid of Alviarin.
No.
I'm laughing at her.
Yeah.
I mean, not literally, because it sucks how much she's getting tortured and how much she's torturing other people and how literally there's just, like, this locked battle of women torturing each other, and I'm supposed to be like, whoa, compelling, or I don't know, I'm supposed to be furiously masturbating or something. I don't know what Robert Jordan's intent is here.
Impossible to say.
But, like, I don't feel frightened.
No.
When Egg gets, like, kidnapped at the end of this book, spoiler alert, and taken to the White Tower, my immediate thought isn't like, oh my god, Masana of the Forsaken is there.
Yeah.
Alviarin of the in charge of the Black Aja is there. My thought is like, oh great, can't wait to see how Egg will fuck this up. Like,
Right. Alviarin offers, like, literally no threat. She's such a ridiculous figure. The way that all of the Wheatley Time bad guys, except for the Shanshan,
yeah.
are presented as sort of comedically ridiculous. Like, we're watching Gallivant right now.
Oh my god, yeah.
And, like, the king who is and the queen, who are supposed to be, like, the evil figures, are, like, fully the most ridiculous people you've ever met in your entire life. Like, the king is deeply incompetent, does things like lights barrels of vegetables on fire, you know? Like, and that's what it feels like watching any of the bad guys in Wheel of Time operate. Like, you know they're supposed to be evil, and they're doing vaguely evil things, but they are not frightening, and I would not be concerned about being around them.
Yeah, I'm not, like, worried about what Alviarin's been doing for the last month, you know? I'm not like, oh my god, I better get some of her itinerary stat, because God only knows what she's been fucking up on Tremolking of all places.
Yeah.
I'm just like, well, okay, presumably nothing came of that.
Yeah, and it's just, so it's just, like, so frustrating for her to be there at all. But generally, we walk in, Alviarin, like, wanders through the White Tower and is like, gotta go check on Aleda. And Aleda is telling the Hall, basically, that they can enter negotiations the exact way that
Egg did, by being like, of course you can do negotiations, but you have to stick to these unreasonable terms.
Right.
And all of the sitters, notably, there's several who are present who are, like, the heads of their Ajas. Everyone is clearly speaking on instructions of the heads of their Ajas, which I guess is, like, a big deal. And also, very clearly, this is being motivated by our group of Black Aja hunters.
Right.
Who we know have uncovered exactly 2 plots that the Black Aja are around, and they've got, like, 2 of them.
Right.
Big deal.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
2 of 9 million.
And they've also uncovered that there are spies from the other side within the White Tower, and presumably on some of that knowledge they are trying to make overtures to the other side. But Alviarin is just like, what the fuck are these, like, why are these people the ones who are doing stuff, da-da-da-da-da. Right. So even she is like, there's clearly something going on there, and it's like, we're supposed to be like, oh no, the Black Aja hunters don't know, but, like, Alviarin's after them, she's on the scent. Nothing happens, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like Dosine and Yukiri start getting picked off, murdered, you know? The way murder is happening in the Salidar camp, which we'll get to in a minute.
Right. Oh, yeah, I think I jumped.
No, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Exactly.
It's just, like, so ridiculous. But when we are with Egg in the White Tower in Book 9, Alviarin is also just being, like, mercilessly beaten by the Mistress of the Novices.
Yeah, repeatedly.
And it's like, she doesn't have any time to do various plots.
She's either being beat up or, like, ailing from being beat up.
So it's just, like, I don't know why Robert Jordan keeps setting up these sort of, like, figures of alleged terror only to, like, totally nerf them.
I know. He's like, look at all my scary bad guys. And I'm like, where?
Yeah.
What you're showing me is just, like, cardboard cutouts, you know?
Yeah, truly these just, like, caricatures of
villainy.
Villainy and treachery. But
Scar from The Lion King is scarier than fucking Alviarin. Because at least he's a lion. Whatever.
So all the, like, sitters leave, and Aleda, like, literally has Alviarin in a corner, and Alviarin's like, you listen to me, and Aleda, like, slaps her and is like, no, you listen to me.
No, you listen.
You're a piece of shit, and you're stupid, and I'm in charge now, and you're gonna get beaten for the next however long, and also, I, like, know you're Black Aja, or I assume, and I'm gonna figure it out. Blah, 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 blah.
Aleda basically is like, first of all, your blackmail didn't work, so fuck you, everyone knows, and no one gives a shit, because there's a siege happening. There are other things to worry about. Second of all, I'm definitely on this. She doesn't say anything specific. She just says, like, I could take you to the headsman for treason, but I won't.
Right.
Which is vague enough that it's very obvious she has no evidence of anything.
Right.
And that she's just sort of making a threat to scare Alviarin. But of course Alviarin's incompetent, so she's not like, oh yeah? What's the fucking proof?
Prove it, bitch.
Yeah, prove it. You know, tell me what the deal is.
Yeah.
No. Alviren just runs, flees for her life.
Yeah.
After Aleda has, I believe, punched her, which is just further backup of Aleda in this archetype of, like, physically intimidating lesbian trope, you know?
Of course.
She can only settle things with her fists because she's not ladylike because she's a lesbian. Anyway, Alviren runs to her room and then, like, basically pulls out a box in which there is a, what are those things called that if you're an old person and you press...
Life alert?
Yeah, she, like, presses her life alert that contacts Masana. Supposedly. We don't know if that's what it actually does, because Masana gave it to her, and Masana is, remember, one of the Forsaken.
Yeah.
And Samael famously was like, these are teleportation cubes, you idiots.
Yeah.
Anyway, Masana appears in her, like, blaze of glory, and she's all, you know, covered in channeling, so Alviren can't see what she actually looks like. But Alviren's like, this is terrible, all of my work has gone to waste, and Masana's just like, I don't care, you'll get over it. Da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Clearly doesn't give a shit. And it's like, Alviren, you stupid asshole. How is she gonna help you?
Yeah. Like, Masana is...
When has she ever given you evidence that
she knows anything.
that
or
she
cares
about anything? No one knows what Masana is plotting here.
Right.
And it's like, we've been told, and it's been alluded to, and now we know explicitly that Masana is in the White Tower.
Right.
But the only evidence of evil things happening in the White Tower is what Alviren's doing.
Yeah.
And here we're seeing Alviren's not doing shit. So what exactly is Masana doing?
She's just having a laugh.
It would appear so.
Just having a good time.
Like, it's not like as terrible as Halima / Arangar is as a character and as this sort of, like, dog whistle for trans archetype things going on. Like, at least she's fucking murdering people, you know?
Yeah, and is very, like, if we're talking about letting chaos reign, Halima is doing a really excellent job of being like, who could have done these murders with the male half of the power?
Yeah, like, you hate to say that Halima is somehow the most competent of the Forsaken.
Yeah.
But, you know, she's doing murders, which is more than any of the other ones can say.
At this point she is. If we're talking about competence in terms of doing a good job at being evil, then yeah. Masana is apparently just having a laugh. Anyway,
yeah. So Alviren's, like, groveling to Masana, and then with excellent timing, because Robert Jordan always wants, you know, women's humiliation to be compounded by it being witnessed.
Right.
That creepy Murdrel, who literally exists only to terrorize the female members of the Forsaken, with, like, threats of sexual assault, shows up to punish Masana for not showing up to the fun party where everyone tried to kill Rand while he was cleansing Sidon.
Right.
Which Semiraj didn't show up either, did she? So
I don't think so.
I don't know, she's in deep cover, or maybe she's been getting her own ass beat. I don't know. We'll see it later, perhaps. But, yeah, Masana didn't show, so now she's getting punished, I guess. Which, of course, her punishment involves her clothes all being ripped off.
Burned away.
Yeah. Which is, like, so, like, you're like, it's so obvious, you know? Yeah. Like, can you imagine Mazrim Tem in this situation?
My clothes have been burned away.
Yeah, like, cowering, you know?
Yeah.
Crying, being humiliated.
Yeah.
No.
No, it would never happen.
Would literally never happen. All that happens when the men fuck up is that they die.
Yeah.
The end.
You know what? That's preferable to what happens.
I know, to all the fucking... Okay, whatever.
To just beef it completely. No, it's truly just, like, so egregious. I don't know why, what's his name? Shadar Haran or whatever even exists.
It's literally just to function as, like, look how rapey the Dark One is. He had to create an avatar for himself so he could rape women. Because, you know, he's a cosmological horror, but he still needs to have a dick with which to terrorize people.
Yeah, of course. Why else?
Why else, indeed? Whatever, so... Then Shadar Haran gives Alviren the Mark of Cain. like that season of Supernatural.
Right.
He just, like, touches her forehead and is like, you're mine now, so basically, like, you don't answer to Masana anymore. Go out and do your evil. Go out and do my dark bidding on the internet. What are you bidding on? A table.
Talk bidding.
And then Alviren runs away and is like, oh my god, that was so scary. And it's like, yeah, okay. I don't know what the effect of that was supposed to be, except to remind me that Alviren exists, Masana is in the White Tower, and Aleda is mean.
Yeah.
These are all basic status quo things that I didn't really need. We flip back over to Egg, whose chapter was technically before this, but
Sorry.
we catch up with Egg after this meeting, all about whether or not they should send an embassy to the Black Tower. Typically, because this is a female government body, nothing has happened. They've all just argued and have been grandstanding and whatnot for all this time.
Yeah.
So everyone goes to bed. Egg's all happy because her headache went away, probably because Halima was busy doing murders or something, so, like, forgot to keep it up. And Egg's like, great, this means I can actually go and tell her on Riyadh, because she, like, struggles with that when she has her headaches. But she goes to bed. Her maid, who fawns over her, is just there to fawn over her, blah, 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 blah. As they go to bed, as she goes to bed, Egg's like, Chisa, do you really think Halima's a slut? And Chisa's like, well, I don't know. She just sort of gives me the creeps. Like I'm changing my clothes and a man is staring at me. And it's like, Robert Jordan, could you be less
transphobic?
I know,
like, this
seriously.
is seriously just the, like, I don't want trans people in bathrooms because they're going to sexually assault me.
Because they're going to see my body in some way.
Trans people just want to be in the changing rooms and the bathrooms that align with their gender identity. So I don't know why Robert Jordan had to put this specific, deeply transphobic line into the book.
But here we are.
Here we are.
So Egg goes to tell her on Riyadh and finds Elaine's dreams and is like, Elaine, I need to talk to you. And then goes to their little meeting spot, which is just her old office in Salidar. I don't know why they don't, like, have a less obvious meeting spot, but whatever. Eventually, Avienda shows up and is like, sorry, Elaine can't come because she's pregnant. And it's just so hard to be pregnant and magical and whatever, but she was super mad and sent me instead. And Egg's like, okay, well, here you are. I'm just gonna talk to you about nothing. And like, it's not like Egg had a particular thing to say to Elaine. I don't know why this happens.
Yeah.
Except, as you said, to show us that Avienda is deliberately not telling Elaine that Rand was at the, big 3-mile wide hole. Which is, like, obviously bad from a writing perspective. Like,
Yeah.
It makes no sense that these characters are choosing not to communicate with each other. Second of all, Robert Jordan sort of makes it a thing about Avienda being a wise one, rather than an Aes Sedai, you know? He's like, Egwene observes that Avienda is, like, dressed as a wise one and is clearly, like, making decisions as a wise one, trying to behave as one. But then that doesn't, like, make ethical sense, because Avienda is not there as herself. She is meant to be representing Elaine.
Right.
So it's just, like, now you're just making Avienda seem like an even shittier person.
Right. It's just strange. I truly don't know why we can't know, why Egg can't know that Rand did 3-mile hole.
Yeah, it's not like she would march up to the hall of the tower and be like, oh, actually, it was Rand.
Yeah.
And I know this for reasons, so actually we don't need to worry about the Black Tower embassy. Like, she has made clear that she doesn't really have any feelings about the Black Tower
Yeah.
embassy. She's just kind of like, yeah, it seems like something that should happen eventually. So it's like, girl.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's the big takeaway from these chapters. Anyway, Avienda leaves, and then Egwene goes to have her normal Teleron Riyadh dreams, which are, like, symbolic dreams. The important ones are that she has a dream about, Matt bowling, and all of the pins represent men. And she's like, this is a dream that I've had before. It is clearly a reference to Matt inventing cannons, and also clearly a reference to the idea that cannons are something that is going to cost hundreds of thousands of lives in the long run. It's a very interesting image. All of Edwin's Matt dreams, for whatever reason, are, like, slap so hard. But it's just, like, an interesting symbol of, like, Matt not taking this seriously. Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because when Matt actually starts working with the cannons and, like, realizing what they can do, he does think about it, like, very clearly. But it is something he chooses to do in all seriousness.
Yeah, it's part of this weird perception, I guess, that everyone still thinks Matt doesn't take anything seriously.
Yeah, it's more like...
It's so weird.
The dreams that Edwin has function more on archetypes than on reality.
Sure.
Which I don't know if that was intentional or Robert Jordan's part at all, but we see some of the most, like, you know, archetypal images in these dreams. And also we see things like Matt leaning into his whole trickster gambler persona, more so than he does in real life, necessarily.
Yeah, totally. That's fair.
But I do think it's interesting, yeah, that there's, like, a difference between Egg's perception of Matt and how serious Matt is actually taking this.
Yeah, no, you're right about the archetypes, though.
Egg also dreams about, like, climbing a cliff, and then she falls, and then a Shanshan lady catches her, and... Spoiler, this is meant to be like Edgyanin, but it doesn't make a ton of sense because Egg and Edgyanin do not meet until A Memory of Light, so there's not really much Edgyanin can do. It sort of seems obvious that Robert Jordan was going to do more with this idea, but didn't.
Right.
Partly because he died, and partly because he must not have left enough notes for Brandon Sanderson to that effect.
R.I.P.
Egg also has a dream about the White Tower being attacked by the Shanshan, specifically.
Yeah, it's attacked by... It's like a white pillar on top of a cliff being attacked by ravens.
Yeah, which are the symbol of the Shanshan.
Right.
And, like, the idea of, like, the White Tower is represented by this lamp, and, like, drops of oil from the lamp kind of get spilled, and that's maybe indicating, like, women getting captured or killed. So that will come to fruition, at least in an interesting way. It's frustrating that Egg, having foreknowledge of it, doesn't actually do anything, you know? But
she tries very hard, at least from what I remember, to tell multiple people that this is a threat.
Yeah, and just no one takes her seriously.
And no one takes her seriously, specifically because she's usually telling, like, Aleda, and Aleda's like, perish, I hate you, and, well...
Like, pick your audience, Egg, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I think she also tells Shiriam, which is, again, like, what is she going to do?
Yeah, what's she going to do?
Shiriam doesn't do anything, and also she's Black Asha, so...
Anyway, Egg finally sort of half wakes up just as Halima is coming back into the tent, all, like, excited. And Edwin, you know, like, she's more or less, like... disposing of her bloody gloves, O.J. Simpson style.
Right.
But Egg is like, oh, she must have been having sex somewhere. And I'm like, why did she come back to your tent in the middle of the night?
I know.
After having sex, like, girl.
You are so weird.
Whatever. But clearly she's just done a murder. And then, typically, when Edwin wakes up, one of the first things that happens is that, an Aes Sedai comes in and is like, just so you know, Anaya and her warder were both murdered last night. And Egg's like, oh my god, how and by whom? And this lady's like, well, I tested for resonances, and it was Sidon. So there is a male channeler in the camp.
Dun dun dun.
And Egg is like, okay, well... you better find out what's going on, to this woman who, like, isn't necessarily suited to the task of detective work.
Yeah,
it's a very mysterious choice on Egg's part.
Nisao, I think, is who it is.
Yeah, Nisao.
Who is,
like...
Yellow Asha, I think?
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't really remember. The point being, like, it's not like it's Swan Sanche Master Spy Master, you know? It's just, like, some lady who happened to bring the news to her, so.
Yeah, like, yeah. It's just, like, Egg, delegate better.
Be like, hey, maybe don't tell anybody. Meanwhile, I'm going to tell my spy master to figure this out.
Or, like, Gareth Bryn.
Yeah.
You know? like, I know Egg and Gareth Bryn have, like, a weird convoluted relationship. It just makes sense to me that if I knew a man was channeling, and obviously that's the whole thing.
It's the whole surprise.
It's not a man channeling, but if that's what I thought, I'd be like, Gareth Bryn, I need you to, like, keep an eye on various men, you know, like, here's the threat that I'm, you know, whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so this will be Halima's reign of terror, where she's just sort of killing people at random, Jack Ripper style, which I think is kind of funny of her.
Yeah, it is, like, for an interesting plot, and is actually sort of, like, one of the more satisfying ones in the murder mystery style, being, like, as soon as someone Poirot's it out, it's gonna have such, like, a nice monologue at the end where someone explains what was going on. And explains how all these things came to be. But for now, it's just kind of like, okay.
It's just kind of funny that Halima is just like, I'm so evil, I must murder people at random whenever I'm upset with Edwin. You know? Like, could you be any more obvious?
Nope. I'm bad, so obviously I have to just be killing people willy-nilly. I can't have, like, an actual plot
I know.
that I'm attempting.
Our last very short chapter is from Pavara's point of view as she is talking to, Talene? What's her name?
Tarna Fear.
Tarna Fear, yeah. Who famously was the sort of ambassador who came to Salidar to strike fear into everyone's hearts, and apparently has just been traveling back all this time and only got back recently.
Yeah.
She has taken Alviren's position as the keeper. And basically all that happens in this chapter is that she tells Pavara the Black Tower is a much bigger threat than we are taking seriously. You know, like, there's a lot more men and they are recruiting actively. Da-da-da-da-da. I think that it should be our job as people in the Red Aja to, bond the men as warders. Which is an interesting proposal, I think. Like, it's an interesting idea to be like, okay, here's the Red Aja, which is very obviously becoming obsolete in this age where the Dragon Reborn exists, and now that we know that Sidon has been cleansed, to the extent that the Red Aja were ever necessary to begin with, which we know that they are just sort of Robert Jordan's puppet for misandry and representing lesbians badly.
Yeah.
But, like, if we take them seriously as something that ever really needed to exist, well, clearly they no longer need to exist, but here we are proposing an evolution that is quite interesting.
Right.
And it's interesting that we'll get it through Pavara's point of view, this woman who is Red Aja, but is not of the typical Robert Jordan man-hating model.
Right.
You know, she's just sort of like, I am angry and full of revenge because my entire family was killed by dark friends, so that's understandable.
Right.
But she's like, yeah, I don't really have anything against men.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of like, yeah, okay.
I'm just here to do some hunting of evil folk.
But she shows Tarna that she's just received this message, some of the first knowledge, that Tovine's group has been taken. More or less. And Tarna Fear's reaction to that is like, oh, that just proves my point, you know? Like, clearly we've got to get a handle on these dudes.
Is that what the note says?
I believe.
Okay, when I first read it, I thought, like, she was being informed that Sidon was cleansed.
Oh.
But I never, like, looked up on the wiki to see anything.
No, I didn't either. That would be really interesting, though.
That was what I was, like, assuming as I was reading it, but I don't know if it would make sense with the timeline, but because, like, Tarna's going on this monologue of, like, we're trained to sort of deal with men who can channel, and as they go sort of mad and XYZ, and that's why the Red Aja need to do this, and Pavara's like, well, this might change the game a little bit if they're not going mad. And Tarna is like, no, it doesn't change anything at all. And Pavara's like, it actually changes a whole bunch. But that could equally be related to, like, Tovine and company having been bonded against their will.
I think it's Tovine and company because I have a vague memory of, like, Pavara's group actually arriving at the Black Tower, and them all, and, you know, the Ashman being like, oh, well, it's no big deal anymore. And them being like,
I don't know, we haven't gone far enough. I haven't gotten far enough into that plot.
Well, I don't know. I think you're right. Either way it works. Either way it's interesting. But so we leave Pavara perhaps about to embark on this mission, which will take her away from black Aja hunting. Not that she was ever instrumental in that to begin with, but
Yeah.
there she goes. There she goes.
There she goes again, racing through my brain.
Next we'll get, unfortunately, Cadsuan, who is in with Rand, like house arrest basically. They're all just in a manor retreat.
So weird. I don't know why they're there.
It's very confusing, but we'll get into it. But that's what's on the docket.
That's what's on the docket.
So thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah.
Thanks to Glenn and McKenzie for our theme song, and to our followers on social media, and our patrons on Patreon. Boy, do I always struggle not to say our Patreons on Patreon.
It's really hard not to. Patreon and patron is a very unfortunate smashing together of sounds. It always messes me up too.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, do you have a sign off?
Trying to think.
All I can think of for me is that my nephew briefly went missing. I'm laughing. This isn't this is actually funny. There's a happy ending to this. But we were all at my parents' house on Sunday to have, the pot roast dinner. And my nephew Will has a habit of crawling through the dog door into the backyard.
Champ.
Yeah, classic. And he did that, and after a minute, I'd, seen him go out, and I'd been, tracking him, so I was like, okay, he's no longer in my line of sight. I was like, I'm gonna go get Will. So I go get Will. Later in the evening, he, again, disappeared, and then we all had to go on a search for him, only to find out that he'd gone upstairs to the playroom.
Right.
So that was an example of more people should look at Will.
Yeah.
He's very quiet. But in this instance, I followed him out. He asked me to open the gate so we could go out to the garage. He got on his little scooter, and we just spent about 15 minutes scootering down the sidewalk, around and around, da-da-da-da-da. But at some point, when we were about, half a block away, we start hearing these noises from back at my house. Just this sort of cacophony.
Huh.
And through it all, a recorder. Badly playing
What in the world?
music. And Will and I finally turn around, and we get back and see that they have a box of, musical instruments. Like a little triangle.
My God. What?
My nephew Jack had these little, bracelet things with bells on them, but he'd put them around his ankles.
Excellent.
And my brother-in-law Collins was playing the recorder.
Okay.
And Jack had just assigned everyone a musical instrument and was just sort of demanding that we all play. Right. So we were heralded on our return.
Excellent.
By this absolute nightmare.
Yeah. Horrible combination of noises. A recorder, a triangle.
Jack informed us that the song was called, he was just this is the song. It was called Wish You Were Here. And Sarah, his mother, my sister, muttered to the rest of us, I wish I wasn't here. So, Jusha shenanigans, musically.
I can only imagine.
I'll show you a video later.
Walking away and just hearing a recorder in the distance.
It was haunting.
Yeah, like a horror movie.
Yeah. Okay, everyone. Have a good week. Bye.